Boom. Welcome to Flow Tricks. It is Ken. Oh, where did my thing go? Poof, there it is. So, first things first, checking for sound. Let me know if there's no sound. I will be looking for that. Figure I'll do that every time, do a little sound check. How y'all doing? How's your week been going? What you been working on? What you been spinning? What are your new explorations? This is a live stream where I, of course, help y'all. The best way to do the live stream is to get questions, live. That way we can interact. I find that doing live streams is a little bit more beneficial than me just grabbing random videos and sending them out, because this absolutely helps at least one person, which I like. I like the thought of that. So, as always, especially if you're on the YouTube channel, which is usually the easiest, ask a question. I've got like an hour and a half of time to go through whatever y'all want to know, and more than happy to help. I can help with nunchucks, staff, double staff, a couple other flow props, performance tips, and business or anything of that nature. Even though business is a bit struggling right now, it's might be a good time to learn the business of flow if you wanted to make this like a part-time or even a full-time career in the future, which is a very difficult thing to do. But this is the time to start because you'll have lots of time to build it. So right now everything's quiet, so you're gonna have more time to be able to build it than when things are crazy and there's a lot more competition out there. Anyways, I hope you all are doing well. Want to give a shout out, of course, to our sponsors, to Dark Monk. He makes almost all my fire gear, as well as my training chucks that I love so much. And also special thanks to Flow Toys. They make my LED staves that you've seen before. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're amazing. And they also make really cool LED chucks that I can't say enough great things about. I love their LEDs. Between them and Ignis's chucks, I'm just like back and forth between them. Just depends on it. And we can talk more about when you'd use one over the other as well. Anyways, I'm gonna give some shout outs here. All right. So Jeremy was the first one. Welcome, Jeremy. Welcome, Anthony. He's back. BioWolf, what's up? Oh, Ikeflow's here. Halikoa, what's up? Oh man, I haven't seen you in a minute. Okay, I think I've covered everyone on the YouTube channel. I know this is a different day. My son's graduation party was on Sunday, so I had to push it over to Tuesday. I'm wondering though if maybe once in a while we should push it over to Monday or Tuesday. What do you guys think? Should we change days a little bit, or do you like the consistency of a Sunday? Some people have messaged me and told me that today was a better day for them. I'm not sure. I guess it all depends. I do know that if we change the times, I'm going to get less people because everyone's so used to it being on Sunday, but let's just talk about that and find out. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to send me a message, send me an email, but mostly put it in the chat so I can see it, because I may not be able to see the email, or there may be a slight delay, so be sure to put it in the chat. I'm going to check Facebook too, see if there's any shout outs I need to give out over on this side. Give me a second. All right. Well, perfect. Okay. I do have some likes, so I'll say hello to Belladonna and Sophia and Tom as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Awesome to see you all on here. Let's talk about flow now. Before we talk about flow, I was this weekend, like you know, was my son's graduation party, and I can't believe he's an adult now and that he's done with high school, and it's just a whole nother chapter. I keep thinking about where I want to go or what I want to do. I do know that Flow Tricks is still always going to be a part. I think it'd be kind of cool, you know, like when I was talking about the world tour, is because it's like next year things are going to be a lot more lax. I don't have a responsibility to raise a kid anymore, so maybe I'll even bring him with. But I think this would be a good time to travel and to teach and to keep. I could still make videos as I travel, so I thought it'd be kind of cool even if I took a couple months doing like a little world tour. I think that would be really fun. And I'm still focused on that. I think that's going to be a really fantastic endeavor to do next year or the year after, whenever COVID calms down a little bit. All right, I'm going to answer some questions here. I'm going to look at the chat room. Let's see here. Okay, so Anthony says, I've sent you an email of something I found out. What else is there to this strange feeling move? Okay, yep, I got your email. Give me a second here. Yeah, Holly, good to see you again. First time in the live stream. That's awesome. Let's see, House think I forgot about you, bro. I have no credit. Hope life's well. We hear you. Okay, cool. Okay, can you need Vision Nunchaku to go with your staff? Okay, so first I'll talk about the Vision Chucks, and then I'll talk about, let's go take a look at your video. So the reason why I have Vision staff, let me go get it, is, for me it's pretty obvious. The Vision staff is a monster. Like, these things are crazy. And for me, when I'm performing, this covers a little bit more ground than the Vision Chucks. Now, I know Chucks are more, Chucks tend to be more my style, of course. Like, Chucks are my area of specialty. But when it comes to performances, I already have some pixel nunchucks, and I already have Chucks that kind of do special things, but I do not have a staff that looks like this. So when I was thinking about what product I wanted to purchase, it was, for me, it was almost a no-brainer because I don't have any stabs or double stabs that are at all like that. Like, I don't know any staffs that's like that, to be honest. Not in the way that Flow Toys does it. So to me, it was like a no-brainer. I definitely wanted to get one of those. Do I want the Vision Chucks as well? You know, it's a little bit harder for me to justify the Vision Chucks as much just because I have Pixel Chucks from Ignis, and those, you know, those are programmable too. If I didn't have those, I probably would have just jumped on those as well, though. I will say I think that Flow Toys makes super durable products, and their warranty is fantastic. So, regardless, I think it'd be a good buy, regardless. But just when I do shows and whatnot, the ability to be able to spin someone's logo, for instance, it's easier to sell gigs that way. So I have to have at least, there's a little bit of a balance that I have to do, but that staff, man, is awesome. And I heard in the future that you'll be able to program it with software too. So that's really good for choreography and for doing it to shows and whatnot. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and go through this video that Anthony sent us, and then I'll answer some more questions. Let's go ahead and go to the website. I already brought it up. We good. So you're wondering, it sounds like you wanted to explore this. Let's see what we got. So right now you're working on doubles with this kind of thing is what I call pattern-based movement, which is when you have chucks or any prop in a specific line where it's creating a specific shape, and you're using that shape as a way to showcase the chucks as opposed to a technique or a skill. So like right here, for instance, you'll notice there's a triangle. This is kind of a diagonal with a straight line. You can use this to almost draw a picture. Like a lot of people will use chucks and they'll draw squares or diamonds with it. There's different ways that you can do this. This is more of a visual aspect that works pretty good when you're doing a performance and you don't want to show off your skills right away. You want to show off something either mesmerizing or just a unique take on chucks, or when the music's slow, it's another good time to use patterns like this. Those are just some examples, just some side thoughts as I'm watching this. So right here, you can see that there's definitely a shape. Two triangles are happening right there. You can tell that he flipped it over into two triangles. I feel like there's a way to capitalize on the triangles a little bit more too. I'm just saying, just because I'm looking at this, you can capitalize on these shapes a little bit more by turning yourself more triangular in that aspect. Your elbows like a triangle, but your back and your head and your body has like a more of a curvature. So you might even want to think, like, as you do these edgy designs, if you're able to take your body and mimic a similar kind of motion, I think that would just present this dynamic a little bit more of what you're presenting here. Another thing I would suggest, sorry, right now I'm just suggesting some performance tips just to help you. Like for instance, that arm swing right there, if you can never go too big with movement, especially when you're showcasing something. So with that arm movement, you can kind of see that there's a lack of energy, and that when someone goes with that loose energy, when someone watches it, they feel that the whole motion has very little energy as well, even if you put a lot of effort into that. So one thing I would suggest is, I know it's kind of funny, hopefully this is what you're asking for, but one thing I would suggest as when you're moving your arm even, instead of swinging it back and forth like this to move, like really like accentuate, almost like you're underwater. Imagine that your arm's underwater, and it will make a difference. Like if you have your chuck, I actually can't do what you're doing, but if I have my chucks in a specific order, if I swing my arm very loosely and laxly, it'll have a different effect than if I have like tension and I have movement and rhythm, and I'm not quite sure exactly how to explain that, but a little bit more like when all your body has the same kind of energy moving through it, like it'll pulse from fast to slow and slow to fast. There is definitely relaxed too, like we do have that relaxed portion, but in that instance I feel like you could extend your arm a little bit more, you could swing with it a little bit more, give it more like a grandiose, bigger, you know, you can make it bigger with that kind of motion. Or even just throw a punch, bam, you know, like if you wanted it to be more fierce or whatnot. Okay, I am going off topic, kind of. I really have been covering a lot of performance lately just because I've been thinking about performances a little bit more and really wanting to help people migrate over in that aspect. So when they showcase their stuff, their techniques will be presented in ways that I feel like could be seen a lot more easily to a person that doesn't know the chucks. Anyways, I'm gonna go back here. We're gonna go back and take a look. Good stuff though. Very, very creative, Anthony. Very creative. What I'm trying to show, I guess, a lot of is when you're looking at something, the ability to look at the shapes you're making on top of the techniques that you're doing. So your body, your chucks, all make a certain kind of shape that you can be aware of and you can use in a performance or as a showcase too. Good. Trippy. So, something else I could suggest, like this is really trippy and intricate right here, right? I would get closer to the camera so we can really see what the heck your hands are doing, but do it in a way that you're more like an illusionist. So get closer to the camera in this aspect, and it'll definitely increase the way, like people's focus and attention, and you'll be able to use that to your advantage to make the shapes bigger. Because this is pretty cool. The shape's kind of small on my screen though, if you look at it, compared to the whole screen size. I would get up on there so you can really broadcast this intricate shape that you're making. Nice. All right, now we're going in the doubles. Very cool. Can tell you put a lot of work into this. It's very smooth. Good throw. Snap. Awesome, awesome. Great flow at the end. A lot of great ideas, a lot of great techniques. You're getting into the complicated stuff, man. There's a lot of great thoughts in there. I wasn't sure which one you were asking about with regards to like going a little bit deeper into, like, were you talking about the very beginning pattern? I'm not familiar with it, unfortunately, to be able to give you a whole lot of exploration opportunities. I feel like I said, with those two triangles, and the way that you're holding them, I can see a potential for being able to swap out the chucks between the two and come up with new patterns by adjusting the way that your hands are gripping them. But all of this is in the play state, so I'd have to actually explore and make some mistakes in order to see what kind of possibilities exist, and I'm not actually fully fathoming what you're doing, so congratulations on that one. I can't quite see it all the way through. But I'm sure if I slowed it down and I looked at it a little more carefully, I could. All right, I'm gonna read some more of these comments really quick, and then we can get back to that video. I just want to make sure here. IQFlow says next year would be cool. I think that'd be fantastic. Hi-Ho says, don't forget the LED nunchuck moves. Awesome, got his vision chucks. Yes, I will give tips on LED nunchuck moves for sure. Santiago, welcome. He's from Argentina. We got people from all over the globe. That's what I love. FlowArt says wrong video. We covered this last week. Oh, yeah. So Anthony, you that's funny, right? I bet I gave totally different advice too, even though that was the same video that was, I mean, that was just sent to me in my email, so I think you just sent the wrong link. But either way, I think that advice will still work. And if you haven't worked on working your way from close to far, the sagittal plane, the forward to backwards motion, it's gonna be good. It'll be a good thing to work on anyways. So it's pretty cool. That works. Santiago says, please subtitle your videos in Spanish. You know, I think YouTube automatically subtitles it. I don't actually know how to get a subtitler. I'll have to look into that though. I think that'd be kind of cool. Anthony says, more in-depth review this week. Wow, I like it. I agree. I need to get in close more. I sent you an email. I'll try sending it again. Okay, great. Great, fantastic. I would love to see whatever emails you have, whatever you want to review. Now, we're going to work on some LED nunchucks, and then I'll come back to Anthony's video and see if he has a revised one, because apparently that was from last week. I kind of remember it now. I wasn't sure if... Unfortunately, I don't have a good enough memory to remember if that just happened or, you know, so. But go ahead and resend that video, and let's go over LED nunchuck moves. Give me just a second here. So my only thing is I don't have my LED chucks on me. I have the cases. I have the cases and I have the LEDs, but I don't know if I have my, hold on. I don't know if I have my ends, my LED ends for these chucks. So just give me one moment while I take a look. I bet you it's in my car. Yep. So the bad news is my LED chucks are in my car, unfortunately. I wonder if I can just, all right. I don't have an end on these right now, so I can't do a whole lot of tricks with these, but I will show you some tricks that you can do with LED chucks. Yeah, this ain't gonna work, is it? No. The number one goal, I'm gonna just go ahead and use non-LED chucks to demonstrate. The number one goal with LED chucks is you want to start looking at pattern-based motions. You know how I was talking to Anthony about shapes? Shapes is really good when you're getting into the creative backhand stuff. When you're working with LEDs, patterns are usually what people are going to see. For instance, while I don't have my LED chucks, I can show you with the staff very easily. The staff, what people are going to see, they're not going to really look at your hand movements because, obviously, when you're spinning LEDs, it's usually pretty dark, right? So they're not going to see what technique you're doing. What they're going to see is the pattern that you're creating with your staff or with your chuck or with anything. So what you want to look at now is look at your prop and see what kind of pictures that you're creating as you're spinning them. So it's going to be a change of thought a little bit, because that's one thing that you want to start thinking about is the kind of pictures that you create. And in most cases, that means high speed usually wins. High speed usually wins a lot when we're talking about nunchucks and LEDs, because when you can do a fast and furious figure eight wrist roll, you're going to have these great, brilliant patterns spinning back and forth. So one thing I would highly recommend and when you're using LED chucks is to learn the figure eight wrist roll. You probably already know it. Make sure you know the reverse figure eight wrist roll. I don't know if you know that or not, but being able to connect reverse to front so you can do turns and movements, and then even just a little bit of throws is fine, but just try to see if you can just keep those circles moving. And this will kind of be your default mode that you'll want to get into while you're doing LED chucks, because you're going to create lots and lots of circles, and that's kind of going to be the goal, at least when you start. And then what people are going to see is, now you can kind of see the yellow, and you can imagine if this was glowing. What people are going to see is a lot of circles, right? So what's going to happen is people will get used to these circles. So what you're trying to think of now is, how are you painting it? So we're painting all these circles, and then it's really good to stop. And then you're going to have these glowing LED chucks. So if you get into a pose right here, not only is this a good photo shot because the light of the chucks is going to be glowing by your face, you know, or even over here, you'll have the LED chucks. It's almost like a photo shoot up. So whenever you stop, it's a perfect time to get a photo. Make sure you get into a good pose from that. So you're making big circles, big circles, big circles, and then stop. get into a nice pose. Look, if someone has camera or whatever, look into it because that's a great time because you're being illuminated by it. And then move. Now, circles aren't the only thing, of course. Sim-X's are really good. Anything that crosses the chucks into itself, or moon waves, where the chucks or paths are crossing into each other, is going to be a little bit more trippy because the whole chuck, especially if you're talking vision chucks, the whole chuck's lit up. So you're going to have a lot of fun playing around with anything like this. The S catches, I don't know if you've heard of S catches, but S catches are fantastic with LED chucks. If you don't know it, let me know and we can cover that. They're very similar to moon waves. You can do like an S catch to moon wave combo variation that looks really good. And what you do with something like this is if you're showing it to someone, you'll get up like right in front of them, pop it like that, and it will blow their mind because they see this brilliant flash right in front of their face. Other things that are very important to know, of course, planes become more important when you're using LEDs. Same with fire, for that matter, because people are going to see the circles. But whenever you're doing a lot of turns or whatnot, you can also just go horizontal. Horizontal is kind of a universal thing because the lines that it creates are generally the same whether I'm standing this way or this way. It's kind of creating the same pattern, the same picture, no matter which direction that you see me spinning in, as opposed to a figure-8 wrist roll where I have to be standing and creating the circle exactly this way. If I do a figure-8 wrist roll this way, the LEDs kind of create more like a V or a figure-8. But when we turn to the side, you're going to just see circle after circle chasing each other. So your planes are going to do a lot with the types of stuff that you do with your LEDs. But whenever in doubt, you can always go to horizontal and just know that everyone sees it the same. So when you're not sure, or if you're surrounded 360 by people, sometimes it's better to do a lot of horizontal motions because everyone gets the same effect. If you're surrounded 360 by people and you do these, some people are going to see this type of motion where it looks more like a line, like two lines on a figure-8, and some people are going to get the full thing, which is like this. So if you're performing in front of a lot of people and you are working vertically, you're going to have to just remember to start tapping it and facing several different directions. You'll have to keep facing in different directions to give everyone a little bit of a show. Planes will be important to consider, but if you don't want to do all that work, you can always go to horizontal, or if you don't care, you can just spin it however you like. This is just trying to get the most circles out of people, because even with the staff, this usually doesn't have as much. This usually is less impressive because my plane's my plane is perpendicular to you, as if I stood here. You can see that there's a greater effect by controlling my plane and what I decide to show to you, as opposed to this again. If I do this, yeah, I mean, it's all right. People will still see it. Cool. But the moment I stand in front, it creates something different. And that's just because I'm controlling my plane. So your facing and what you do is going to be really important. And if I do something horizontal here, it's going to be the same. Everyone's going to see it the same. It's going to look like this. The only people that will see it differently are people that are above me and people that are below me. Otherwise, it's going to look the same for everyone. Usually the horizontal stuff isn't as impressive as if you can get a good plane, but it's still something that you can do and consider through your arsenal. So we have pauses. You'll be illuminated. Don't forget that. Hold any pause. Let the light just illuminate you. Look awesome. That's great. Whenever you want to do photos, is just rest it in some sort of clutch or another. Make sure you make lots of circles with your figure-8 wrist rolls. Consider the horizontal as well. And then, of course, the last one, which is really fun, is huge throws. I think that LEDs and fire chucks are just made for being thrown. It just looks fantastic. Usually when you do a big throw, what people are going to see is the spiraling light go up in the air and back down. Now, if you aren't good at catching them, especially if you have expensive chucks, you may want to work on that first with lesser chucks. If you're comfortable with that, though, it's really great to do a big throw and then catch it into a clutch of some kind and then just wait for a minute. Also vary your speed a little bit too. Speed is a huge thing again when you're helping people. Last but not least, think about your patterns. I guess I can't say that enough. So if you're doing too many circles, people will get used to this circular look. So you have to think about moves that change it up. Like for instance, this motion creates a different pattern. You can still see a circle, but there's also this sort of drop that happens. So it's going to create a different pattern. You're almost thinking like, hey, I'm like a human spirograph. So you have your anti-spins, This one's definitely good while you're doing regular circles, get everyone used to it, and then go anti-spin, and then go back. So there's a lot of different options that you can do. But my suggestion is to stop categorizing them as techniques, what your favorite techniques are. Start recording them and looking at what kind of picture you're actually creating, like a spirograph, and then figure out what moves you want to do and what angle you need to be for the audience to fully collect on the experience of what you're trying to make. All right, I'm going to keep going down here. Flow Arts tutorials, more in-depth review this week. Okay, wait, I already got that one. Santiago, genius, although I don't understand your language. I learn a lot from your videos. They are very graphic. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, Santiago. Sorry, yeah, I really wish I had an interpreter of some kind. That would be awesome. We are going to take a look. I think Anthony sent another video. Give me just a second here. Let's take a look at this one. All right, Anthony, here we go. This is your newest one. All right. Hold on, it's hard for, let me see if I can't hear it. Hold on one second. I don't know if you guys can hear this or not. Just give me a second. All right, here we go. So, I don't know if you can hear what Anthony's asking. He's asking me if I know what this move is. He says it's a lot like the infinite X catch, except for both hands are facing out. So he's saying that the infinite X catch, the difference is that one palm's facing up and the other's facing down. I don't know if you guys can hear him talking or not. I'm not sure. I've got my headphones on to hear it. I don't know if it's going through on my stream, so I'm just explaining. Yeah. So what he's wondering what the difference is between like the hand grip from the infinite X catch. He's saying that from his, he can do an infinite thumb wheel if your hands. All right, so he's asking if I know what the name of that move is. That it's sort of like an infinite X catch where we're going across like this. And to be honest, it actually is. I still consider that to be an X catch. Like even if your hands are, it's basically as long as you're getting your hands to cross, no matter which way that your hands are gripped, no matter which way it's gripped. So there's different variations to how you can get this grip to happen depending on which way my hands are facing. Usually people go from this direction, but we can definitely swap it the other way and do like almost like what it looks like from this direction is front rolls, and when we do it from here, it's actually back-to-back rolls. And that's going to be the difference in the different kinds of X catches we do, because it's going to leave us in two different grips. For instance, right now I'm in a front grip and a back grip, right? This is really cool to know, because front grip and a back grip, boom, right? This is an X catch like this. But if we're in here, I'm in a front grip and a front grip, and the backs of the hands are facing each other to grab it. But I can't go any further unless I do it again. And this is still under my, I still consider this an infinite X catch, because it's just what do we do if we keep going? And it's not much different than if we took a front to back hand roll and we kept going into a back to back, or we do a back to front hand roll and we go into a front to front. It's very similar in that same aspect where we can go this direction or we can flip it the other way. Now if we flip it the other way, it's very easy to do things like going into a reverse thumb wheel or things of that nature. It's actually more like what that is, Anthony, is what I would consider that to be is high-level infinite X catches. It goes one step above what we've been working on, and it's very, very much like doing rips. The infinite X catches that I usually teach are very much like rips, right? And then the infinite X catches that you were doing is like doing a rip one direction and then going again, but now your rip has to be, but going the same direction. So right now when we do rips, we go back to forth, right? We go from right to left, because this just allows us to do front to back hand rolls the whole time. But if we keep going the same direction, we do a front to back hand roll, but then I launch my hand again, it has to be a back to back. this is the only way to keep it infinite, and vice versa. If I go the other way, this has to be a back-to-back. But if I go the other direction, it has to be a front-to-front. No matter how my hands are facing, whether they're both up, one's down, they're both down, you can always get this technique to work. So in my eyes, what creates an X catch, or why I define it as an X catch, is the motion of two movements. Okay, initially why I called it was an X catch was because your arms would be in an X. But as we moved on with the technique, we realized that it's less about the X and more about the crossing of two different motions, and using that force in between these hands that move no matter which way they're going, using the force that happens in between to pinch and to turn them. So again, when we work with this one thing you can think of is there's really 4 different kinds of infinite X catches you can do, right? We have, once you go one direction, keep going. And you have all different kinds of options that you can do with the X catch. You were doing the reverse version, which is still very similar. It's actually a lot harder to do it this way. And you can also play with like rollouts to the infinite X. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff you can do with that motion, just because you have both your hands playing off of this rope. So there is a ton of explorations that I haven't gone into. Again, most of the time I'm just going off of the similar thing like the rips. So you may not have realized that you can still rip. Like, you can rip the same direction too, but you have to eventually turn it to a back-to-back hand roll in order to rip, or front-to-front, depending on which direction it's going. And that's very similar to the X catches as well. If you keep going, this will be similar to a back-to-back, and if you go the other way, similar to a front-to-front. And from there, of course, you can stop the move in half and come up with brand new moves. So I hope that helps, and don't forget you can also go horizontally this way. So we can go infinitely this way. And my personal favorite, actually, I don't work this one very much. You can go horizontally the other way too. Again, one represents back-to-back hand rolls, the other represents front-to-front, and everything in between. All the variations that you can come up with, basically you just interrupt the motion halfway, you know? So there's a lot happening here where you can change things up to alter the move. So the infinite X catches have a ton of variety that you can do. And I'm glad that you're able to do it, because I don't think a lot of people are able to do infinites. Haven't explored all the options, to be honest. I think that's great. I think that's great that you can go into that. You can go into that reverse thumb roll from there, though. From here to like. I feel like one thing that is also nice to know about infinite X catches is center lane, middle lane, I mean, which is the ability to create a figure 8, which is not outside the body, but more in the center of the body right here. So when we do a reverse figure 8, we'll keep the chuck basically dividing the face in half, or the body in half, right? And we do a reverse figure 8 here as opposed to all the outside of the body. And the reason why I want to show this is because you can use a reverse figure 8 middle lane in order to transition to and from the motions that you do. So we're doing a reverse figure 8 middle lane over here, like this. And one thing you can do is grab the center where your hand is at the chest, do an underhand grip here, or it should be a front grip, even though it feels kind of like an underhand grip. Grip it here, and then the hand that's in front is going to flick it up into a figure 8 on the other side. And then we're going to put our hand by the chest and grab it here, and then the hand that's in front is going to flick it. Grab, flick it, grab, flick it. And then what you'll have is like this middle lane figure 8 that happens, and this will help you. This is also a great transition with that move. That's why I wanted to show it to you. So like we're here, this is what it looks like sideways. The cool thing is you can get some really nice speed out of it too. From here it looks like this, right? Now, this in itself has nothing to do with your infinite X catches, but just wait, let me show you. Now what we're gonna do is we're not gonna go outside to the figure 8. Right now we're flicking it inside, outside, inside, grab. Inside, outside, inside, grab. Inside, outside, inside, grab. This time we're just gonna go inside, push our hand forward and grab. Inside, push the hand forward, grab. Inside, grab. Inside, grab. Now we're staying directly into the middle lane. So here, right? You can mix it with this. But you can already see this motion is very similar to this motion. So you can play with that. So when you're doing this motion here, where you're going into your infinite X catches, you can break it straight out into this. See? Or go the other way. And then, you know, you have your regular figure 8 variations, which is the exact same thing, but the opposite. All right, those are just some options that I've come up with. The infinites have a ton of variations that you can come from. Because both hands are locked into it, it allows you to just release one of the hands and come up with something brand new. All right, let me see if there's anything. Let me know what you think about that. Give me just a second here. Just double checking, making sure there's no questions about things. Perfect. All right, as far as I can tell, let me just check the Flowtricks page real quick too. As far as I can tell, we've run out of questions. Give me just a second here. Okay. So let me just jump on YouTube as well. Is there any questions that you have about the options that we have from that move, or what you'd like to see from it? Go ahead and let me know. Just checking one more time here. Okay, perfect. Go ahead and let me know. I'll just continue on with this. All right. I'm gonna go back here. This is the middle lane, right? Here. You can work the reverse catches here. I really like this because you can get a lot of speed, you know. It's almost like you're climbing a staircase. You will whap yourself really hard in the face, so make sure you don't hit yourself on the face, right? And then you can also push up and do a hand roll this way. So if we're going this way here, what happens is the front hand pushes forward and you do a front to front hand roll right here. So here, here, push, swing. Here, here, push. And then you're into this motion. This turns you 90 degrees. So this would be I'm facing the camera sideways. Catch, 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 right? And then this hand's gonna push, and as the swinging forward, I'm gonna twist to the side and do a front to front hand roll right there. So here, here, right? And then what you can do from here is swing it right back into motion. Now what I did there was I did almost like a figure 8, and then swung it right back into my motion, right back into center. You can do whatever. You can add that in and go back to your figure 8s. See? Again, front to front hand roll, swing it down. You can go straight into it, or you can swing it down and out and back into it. Whatever kind of flavor you want. You can go back into your infinite X catches, right? Now here's another thing with your infinite X catches that you can do. While we're rolling into it, you can also change the grip of your hand. Instead of flipping it this way, change it over to here and you have other options. So instead of grabbing it, instead of going to grab it, put your hand on top of it like this. And now we have other directions. For instance, I can shove it down to grab it. So we're here, right? Oops. Here, we shove it down, and then I push down on the other end. Here, it's kind of tricky, but you can push. It's basically a push-through roll. So we're trying to push it through like that. You can also do an X catch, of course, through this side too as well. So we can go here, here. Let me see. We're going into experimental territory here, so I'm just playing with this idea now. But the thought that I had was that you landed on top of your hand, and then you can create an X catch. Hand, palm lifts up, and then it pushes through into a side roll. So from there, we can go here, right? So we're getting this motion here, and then we're gonna try to land it on the outside. Let me see. Try to land it on the outside of the hand here. Cross, flick. Boom, nice. All right, Ken, you got it. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple things just to make sure here. Caesar says, I remember you said you released your Chuck Encyclopedia. Will that still be done? Yes. Yes, the problem with the Chuck Encyclopedia is I'm so much of a perfectionist. I've made some videos and I've deleted them and I've tried it over and I've tried all these different routes because I'm making it too epic and I just need to like get the techniques out instead of trying to make it so integrated. So I have been working on it, but then I got sidetracked because I was like trying to put in so much that it actually became really hard to make a video. I am still working on it though, so don't worry about that. However, if you need something right away, definitely the live streams will probably come a lot faster than this encyclopedia because I'm trying to find the best angle. Something that's timeless is really hard to make. Like, I want to make a video series. Like my old Nunchaku tricks videos are good, but they're not timeless in that it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of extra stuff. So I'm trying to make this new video series that doesn't have the extra stuff and it's just full of great information. And the approach has been a little bit tricky. I've tried several, maybe about a dozen different ways to approach it, and I still haven't found that winning combo. I'm still having a hard time with throws while on fire, even after all these years. Any tips? Yeah, I've got a couple tips for you. Let me see. Oh, perfect. So, the big tip, I mean, obviously the big tip with throws with fire, there's a couple of them. One is, I've had problems with throws even after, 8 or 9 years with fire when there's absolutely no other light but the light of the chucks. So for instance, if you're at the beach or if you're in complete darkness where all you can see is the chucks, it's actually gonna work against you a little bit. In those particular cases, if you have a chuck that has, for instance, this chuck and this chuck, this will shine a little bit better. If you have something that has like a spotting, some sort of spotting mechanism, as opposed to all black, it will help you be able to at least see where the stick is. The whole goal, I think, with catching chucks is that the only thing that's lit is the fire of the chucks, and that's the only thing you don't want to catch. So in time, what you can do is you can look at the chucks and learn to spot. You can kind of like, all you'll see is these two glowing objects, but you can eventually learn to spot and kind of have a good idea of where the sticks are based on just these 2 points of fire. And I've reached a point where I can usually just, I don't really have to look at the sticks per se. I can look at the edges and kind of get a general idea. So the way that you spot can change, and that can be really helpful. But at the same time, there's still a little bit, you're still spotting a little bit. So when you have absolutely no light at all, except for the light of the chucks, I've found that it gets twice as hard to catch them. So a couple things that I would recommend. One is you could put even just like a little bit of yellow tape on your chucks, see if it helps you. If it does, then you know it's a spotting issue. If it doesn't, then you know it's something else, because there's other reasons why you may not be able to catch this chuck. Another thing is to accentuate the height as opposed to the spin. So if you are holding closer to, if you're holding closer to the rope, it's gonna spin faster when you let go. That's a very fast spin. But if I hold lower, then it'll have less of a rotation. So if I move my grip to about middle, which will be pretty hot on the hand, so I gotta do it fast, but I can go from here, and as I'm spinning, I can kind of scoot my hand down a little bit. See how I just scooted my hand down? So when I throw it, my hand's more in the middle, or even not necessarily on the fire, but pretty close to the edge of where the grip's at. And then from here, this will slow down. This will slow it down a little bit. And what I'm doing here is I'm sticking my thumb up like this. And it's almost like if I was to high five a wall, but then I put my thumb forward. It's very similar to this motion. And what I do is I spin and I twist my hand out like this. And now I'm pushing straight up in the air. What this will do is this will give you a super high throw, but it won't have a ton of rotations. And that will also help because, especially with fire chucks and it's spinning fast, if the chucks are spinning super fast in the air and the only thing you have to spot it is looking at the fire, the problem is you won't be able to see the stick very good because the fire is such a big comet swirl that it may be like hard to distinguish where the actual comet starts when you're looking at this and you're trying to see, well, where's the comets at, you know? It's pretty tough. So instead, lower your grip, push it more up, go for height. Go for the height, let it slow a little bit more in the air. It'll definitely help out. The crowd won't notice any difference and it'll help you spot. If you do want like a ton of spins, that's perfectly great. Just build into it. Start off with the lower grip, pushing upwards, and as you get more comfortable, raise your grip a little bit more, give it a little bit more rotation and see if you can. And if you can't, then go back down a little bit until you find that happy medium and work it until you can slowly get it. I think the last part about it is adding artificial lighting. So the last part is maybe you have the tape and maybe you're throwing it slower but you're still having some issues. Well, just a little bit of lighting can help. Even just standing under a street light or just any kind of light at all. If you're in the absolute darkness when you're spinning chucks though, it's a lot harder to catch. I can tell you that hands down. You can still do it. I mean, I do it. But there's times in performances, even now there's certain times, and a matter of fact, there was a recently I was performing with nunchucks, and I was like, conditions are just off. I am not going to do any throws. No throws. And I just didn't do any throws just because when you're performing, you can't afford any mistakes. So if you feel like you can't do it, you just hold back and you don't do it. But hopefully that'll help you out. Like I said, a lot of it has to do with spotting or the speed of the chucks or just the lighting. If you can adjust all three, I bet you'll be able to figure it out. Anthony, you're so smart with your chucks, so epic. I love that you're exploring so much. You're definitely gonna get further along than where I got, which is good. I feel like that's where we should be. We should be getting new chuckers coming up with new ideas. I love how creative you are with those things. I love the infinite X sketches and the X sketches. I find them to be pretty tricky, and I don't work on them as much as I should. But the versatility that you can get with pretty much being able to take the chucks any direction when we're doing the infinite X sketches, we can go any direction from here. Here, let me get these. We're going this way. It's very easy to go horizontal and back to vertical, back to horizontal, back to vertical, or whatever. We can go backwards. And that's what I love about these two. When we go one direction, you can still change directions quicker, but you don't have the other hand to kind of stop it and redirect it that you can with the infinite X sketches. So when you do it this way, you have to add like a stall before you can change directions. And it's still like a little bit of work to be able to change that direction. Whereas this is like it's like practically no work because practically no work because your hands are controlling the whole thing. So we can go horizontal and vertical and back to horizontal, swing it over to diagonal, back to a diagonal, back to a horizontal, back to a vertical. Super easy. You just keep it going. Drop the chucks. I'm gonna go back to my more favorite pair. It's really funny. The chucks that I have very different variations of these chucks. I think I have like 5 or 6 different types of these chucks as we were going through the process of reinventing them over and over until it was the right combination. And this one has a shorter rope, and that one has a longer rope. And when I grab the wrong pair, and I think it's the other pair, it's pretty funny. It's like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like when you eat a sweet pickle, but you think it's a dill pickle. You're just all set up for it. Yeah, kind of like that. All right. Let's see here. Santiago, which nunchaku is better, rope or chain? I mean, there's no easy way to answer that question, but I prefer rope for safety reasons mostly. A chain can break. Let me see if I got one real quick here. This has happened to me plenty of times. Chains here, you get a little dirt in here, it starts to grind, and then one day, pop, it just pops off and your chuck goes flying away. That's the thing I don't like about chain, is the fact that you don't always know when this is gonna break. The one thing I like about chain is that you can do spins off of your arm, like, you probably can't see that, but you can spin a nunchuck. You can spin a nunchuck by wrapping it, like by glancing it off your shoulder like this, and you can't do that with rope chucks because it requires gosh, I can't talk today. One of these things. I can't think of what they're called, but it requires the ability to spin. Now these chucks are almost 10 years old, so they won't spin very good. But when I do my fire chucks and I spin it off here, it makes a huge plume of fire. Very similar to when I do it with a staff and I make a huge plume of fire. And it's only chain chucks that can do that. So that I like. I like the fact that when you grip it, it feels really meaty and tough, but I hate the fact that, one, it pinches a little bit more because they don't bend as well, and two, they break, and they won't give you any sign of when they're about to break. Sometimes, and especially because I've oiled my chucks before, I've oiled my chain chucks, and then it's going to be smooth, and then just one day it just flies off. And you can't even tell because you've oiled them, so it's still got that smoothness, and I got no warning, and the thing just breaks apart. So what I like about rope, the things I like about rope is the ability to do finger rolls is a lot cleaner, and you can look and see the fraying of the rope, so you know exactly where you are with this rope and when it needs to be changed. That's what I think. Ball bearings, thank you. I completely, it was just lost. Hey, yep, I have no excuse this time. Ball bearings. If you do use chain, let me see here. If you do use chain, there's a, you can use skateboarding oil. There's different kinds that you can choose from. Here's Bone Speed Cream. This is, actually that's exactly what I've used. Bone Speed Cream. This is great for your chucks as well. Very good stuff. It will launch it very fast. It'll make it like almost like it's gliding on air. So Bones Speed Cream is something I could definitely recommend if you do use your chucks. Just keep in mind, if you drop them, you could break them. Like just the ends, the pins that hold it together. I've broken it that way. And then if the ball bearings grind out, they'll just fly off, which is pretty annoying. Okay, I'm gonna keep going here. IKeyFlow, Ken, why don't you utilize the join channel feature on YouTube? Could you not upload your video series there and grant access to paid members? I don't actually know what that is. What's the join? I'll have to look it up. I haven't researched the join feature. I'm assuming it's some sort of paid YouTube feature. I've been working really hard on Patreon. I mean, because I've got, I've made over 100 videos just for Patreon donors. So I don't know if it's something that's similar to that where I could pull it over to YouTube. It's just hard because I don't want to spread myself too thin per se, because if I have Patreon and then I also have memberships on the flowtricks.net site, and then I have another YouTube membership, it may get a bit unwieldy and whenever I upload a video. Because like right now, for instance, when I make a video, I upload it to the flowtricks.net website, upload it to the official Flowtricks Facebook group, goes on the Flowtricks website, goes on the YouTube channel, becomes a discussion that I post sometimes on my YouTube page. So it goes through a lot of different variables. I'm trying to systematize all that, make it a little bit easier, but I'll definitely check it out. I don't know anything about it yet, so I'll have to research it. Samyar, Ken, last stream you said you played The Last of Us Part 2. What did you think about the game's story? Not many people liked it. Well, I'm not like most people. I'm not shut. This is like super bright. I'm not like most people. I'm gonna be honest. Last of Us 2 was one of my favorite games. I love that game. Dude, that game was awesome. I don't know why people were so upset. I mean, I understand why people were upset about it because it broke a lot of the rules of gaming that you shouldn't do. And I don't want to, for those that didn't play, I'm not going to talk about it. But for me, I love that stuff because I've played a lot of games. I've watched a lot of movies. I know the formula. It's that winning formula and it drives me nuts. The winning formula is basically what you see on YouTube too. When one person realizes there's a successful formula for making videos or for showcasing something, everybody copies that formula. We've all seen this movie 100 times before where underpowered guy, he's a nothing, he's a nobody, and then he becomes the chosen one by the end of the movie, but he has to do a lot of training. Like this is like, that is a template of a movie that we've seen a gazillion times. And it's great, I love it, but it's like we've seen that movie a million times, right? And so like when people like release a video game that defies the expectations and it kind of tears away at you, I love that stuff, man. I am all about that. I'm all about creative, just like with nunchucks, man. You come up with a new move, it doesn't have to be like that fantastic. As long as it's something new and creative and fresh, it's awesome, like because you're expanding it. And for me, The Last of Us, I love the story, even with or without it. I just thought it was really brutal and dark, and I can't say enough great things. It's one of my favorite games. People will be upset, people will turn it into a political thing, but that's more of a reflection on them than it is anything else. I mean, it's just a reflection of what they want out of a game. For me, I just want something that just feels real, feels honest, feels, I don't know, has a crazy twist or message or keeps me on my toes or does something that wakes me up. And I feel like Last of Us checked almost all those boxes. It was so good. It's definitely not for everyone, but I love that game. And I made a post on my Facebook about how much I love that game because dang, whew, that's something or else. But if you like Pixar movies, if you like Disney movies, if you like the Marvel formula, Marvel does have a formula, there's a formula to these things, and Last of Us is not that formula. And so if you come in thinking it's got that formula, you are going to hate the game, and you are going to, well, I mean, the developers got death threats. I mean, that's how neurotic people have gotten. But, you know, it's whatever. It's pretty messed up, I think. But anyways, yeah, what I'd like to just say is, like, I just like things that redefine what we think or what we see about things. I love that kind of stuff. Last of Us, boom. Like, bullseye for me. Definite bullseye. All right, so I'm going to continue forward. I could talk about video games all day. You know, but there's so many video game streaming channels, but I love, yeah, video games. Right now I'm playing Neo and I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima, but we'll get that later. Yep. All right, Mr. Zaps Nunchaku. Hey, thanks for the answers. Can you show me some cool strikes? I mean, when we're talking about strikes, most strikes are not very cool. Gotta be honest. Most strikes are not very cool. And the reason why most strikes aren't very cool is because they've got to be effective. I mean, when you're going for strikes, you generally want to hold lower and you just want to like smack them. You're trying to get a reaction. So one thing you can do, I can show you this. One thing you can do is try to like do a feint before you strike. So I used to do this in martial arts too. And basically what a feint only works if they're a little bit intimidated by you. So you don't do this to someone that's aggressive or you're just going to get hit. If they're aggressive, what you do is you just go for the quickest, sharpest blow you can. So this is just boom, upside the head, you know? You're going to want to grab it lower though. You're not going to grab it high. I'm not going to get too much into the striking thing. But if you make them afraid of you, say you whack them in the face, you come back, right? They're going to think you're going to come back again. And what you do is you lean forward and you stomp down like this. But you don't go, you change your direction. This is to get them to lift their hands up to try to block, and then you just cut the ribs, you know, or something of that nature, you know. Or what you do is you lift up, if they charge forward, step back, boom, straight down. So you kind of want to read their leg work. Another thing you can do is jump up like this to get them to react, and then just stomp kick them right in the knee. Just do a kick instead, because when someone has a weapon of any kind, say this is a knife, for instance. If someone has a weapon of any kind, they're always going to focus on this knife. So I could be like here, but then my actual attack is going to be me kicking you straight in your kneecap or in the groin, because they're going to be facing this way. Another thing, like the idea of feinting or whatever, like flash it across the face like this, and actually stabbing. I switched hands, but that's another trick. That's kind of like, it's funny because it's like performance. It's like sleight of hand. But it does kind of work, I think, with combat as well, which is the idea that you fake them out, but you do it so quick. You got to get them convinced that that's what you're going to do. So in this one, like you'll hold a weapon or something, you hold it close, you make them think you're going to do one thing, but then you actually switch hands right before you feint it. They'll block it, and then you have this clean open shot, boom, right wherever you need it to be. The thing I like about the chucks is any hand can do it, right? You can swing from any direction, which is why the chucks are really great. But when someone sees you move, they're immediately going to flinch. So that's why I like, especially when they're like on edge, so that's why I like the feints or like some sort of quick motion and then throw it, you know? Something to get them to react first, and then you, bam, and then you hit them. This doesn't work on everybody. Keep that in mind. If they're not afraid of you, when you do that fake out, you're going to get hit. So you have to be able to read your opponent to know when should you strike. When someone's really aggressive or they're not afraid of you, that feint, they're not going to register. They're going to see you move and they're going to blast you. So you have to be able to first, one way that you can make that fake out work better is to instill fear in them. So if you think they're aggressive, the first thing you need to do is make them afraid of you. So I would first start with being very sharp and to the point and very fast. Just to hit them, just just to get them to wonder if they're going to get hit again, or to give them a little bit of a daze. And then your feint is probably going to work so much better. So that's a little trick that I picked up way back in the day. It works with martial arts. That's like when I used to spar people. I feel like feints were a big part of my strategy, because I didn't have to be faster and I didn't have to be stronger in order to land a hit if I could outsmart them. If I could make them think I was going to do something and I did something else, it worked really well. It's got to be kind of trained, conditioned in, and it has to be instinctual. You have to be able to read it for it to work, but it works. Hey, look, we just talked about martial arts. All right. Hey, Ken, I think you nailed it. I frequently spin in darkness. Yes. I rarely even attempt these throws while burning anymore, but I'll try adding that. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, when you're in darkness, huge difference with fire chucks. Huge. Ike Flo says ball bearings. I finally got to that part. I am like, okay, so I love my apartment, but I got this fly infection and it's driving me nuts. So when you hear me clapping or slapping, it's because there's a fly buzzing around. And I don't know. He doesn't get free. I mean, I pay my rent. He can't live here either unless he pays his. Yeah, I know. I'm a tyrant. Okay, yes, it's similar to Patreon. Cool. I'll check it out. Let me type that up, actually. YouTube. I'll type that up and I'll take a look at that and see what that's about. All right. Flow Arts Tutorials. Anthony says swivel. And Leonard says, whoa. Anthony says, nowadays game developers don't take risks. More should take risks. So the reason, I mean, if you think about it, because I was in the music industry for 10 years prior to being a circus artist. And the moment big money gets involved, I don't want to get too much into this, but the moment big money gets involved, there can only be one way through it confidently. And that is to take the formula that has always worked. For instance, if you knew nothing about games or movies, but you had a lot of money and you wanted to make more money and you see this movie, you're going to start like trying to control it and turn it into something that you know will make more money. And this is kind of a problem, is the money is the motivating factor for a lot of these games that I think that copy and paste, or like with YouTube channels, they'll copy and paste what's successful. And that way, you know, everyone's like that. We all copy and paste what's successful. But it's done to a degree where artistry starts to get lost. And we've seen this with themes like superhero movies. You remember when, like, I mean, Marvel, when it first came out, like when they were doing their things, it was amazing. But it's like, then everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Now everyone's a superhero. And then before that, everyone was a zombie, you know, and it's like, and then they just run it into the ground to where it's no longer original or creative. And then they just suck all the life out of it. And then you have this husk of this thing that was once really great. So if Last of Us 2 did really great, what you would see is just a swarm of new games that would be just like it, but just slightly different, you know? Hey, it's The Last of Us 2, but this time it's got a dog. What would a dog think in the same situation? Like, that is like what I see a lot of, is like, hey, what would this type of thing be with this exact same model? And I feel like, I mean, it's cool because that's what we do with chucks. We take a technique and we're like, hey, what if we did this technique, but we slightly modified it, right? But when we're talking about like artistry, sometimes I think also the best thing you can do is just keep going. Just keep going and making it your own instead of trying to copy something else and changing one little factor. I feel like the change needs to be more dramatic. Well, anyways, like I said, from an investor standpoint, they want money back, so they're gonna want to go with the safe route, and which is why I think a lot of big name movies and games all feel the same. But once in a while, you get people that are super creative, and it hits. Most of the time, when you get those super creative games or movies, they come from indie games, and it's because they have more flexibility because they don't have people investing millions of dollars with high demands to make their money back. You know how stressful that would be. I couldn't even imagine. Like, imagine if even with Flowtricks, if I had like this $1 million investor, right? It'd be super crazy. Like, it'd be super great. But I'm sure there's going to be much bigger demands put on me, and it would change the channel to some degree, so that guy knows that he can make his money back. Yeah, so there's that. Leonard says, by the way, I've received my first 2 pairs of chucks for doubles. I learned the 3-beat weave within an hour, tighten it up to minimal arm movement, and then went to reverse 3-beat. Killer. Okay, so if you can do front and back, can you transition between them? So if you can do a front, hold on. You can do a front 3-beat and you can do a reverse 3-beat, See if you can transition between them. So if you're doing a front 3 beat here, you should be able to turn 180 degrees and do a reverse on the other side. The way that this works is, as you bring your hand to the front, it kind of swings in a half moon. So if we're doing reverse, it swings upwards to the other side, and then it goes here. And we go to a regular 3 beat, and then when you're going in the regular 3 beat and you bring it to the front, our hands are gonna pull downwards across. So you notice when we're going reverse, it goes up. And then when we're doing regular, it goes down. And if you can do that, then you should be able to move back and forth between both the 3 beats like this. So practice that. I think that'd be a really great thing to practice. Practice doing your 3 beat weave here, and as soon as your hand crosses over to the front, you're gonna swing it, and you're gonna cross and uncross, and you go back to your reverse here. And when you're over here, you can do the same thing. As soon as we pull to the front, instead of creating the circle on this side, we're gonna pull it over to the top of here, and we're gonna cross and uncross, we're gonna go back. Cross and uncross here. See, as my hand crosses over to this side, I'm crossing and uncross as I turn. Crossing and uncross as I turn. And then you can go back and forth. And you can just go on and on and on. If you have both those moves down though, you are solid. That's great, congratulations. Once you open that up, you'll be able to do all kinds of really cool movements. All right, Leonard says, I just want to know how to enter 3 beat and flow. Oh, sure, yeah. So you enter a 3 beat and flow when both the chucks are spinning in the same direction. When both the chucks are spinning in the same direction, you can 3 beat. So if we have them, so if you notice, this is going counterclockwise, this is going counterclockwise, you can go into a 3 beat. If this is going counterclockwise and this is going clockwise, you can't 3 beat. They're going in opposite directions. So if you're doing hand rolls like this, you won't be able to go into a 3 beat automatically. You have to change the direction of one of the chucks. Keep that in mind because there's 4 directions chucks can go. One is they both go counterclockwise. One is one goes clockwise while the other goes counterclockwise. The other is they do the opposite. One's going clockwise or one's going counterclockwise while the other goes counterclockwise. Can't talk. And then they're all going clockwise. So there's 4 ways you can do it. Again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And between those 4, the regular 3 beat has 2 openings that you can do. One is when they're both going counterclockwise, you can turn to the left to get into it. If they're both going clockwise, then you turn to the right. And the reason for that is because that's just the direction that the chucks are going. So if they're going to the right, you can see that this would kind of be the motion that it needs to get into. So what's going to happen is right hand's going to swing over to the back, and then the left hand's going to swing to the back, and then you can go into the chasing. So if they're going here, here. If they're going here, you turn this way. If they're going opposite directions at any point, you won't be able to do the move. If they're going opposite, though, you can do like your split opposite hand rolls you can get away with, but you can't go into a weave until one chuck bounces. You're going to have to bounce a chuck because they're moving this way. So for instance, if I was able to bounce a chuck this way, then they're going the same direction again, see? And then we can go and do the 3 beat. So what you can do is as you're going up here, bounce, and then switch into it. That's how you can get into it. I know it sounds a little confusing, but the golden rule is if your chucks are both moving in the same direction, you can go into a 3 beat weave. If they're not, you won't be able to. Yeah, and because there's a left and a right, this way will be counterclockwise will be left because it just fits that way, and then clockwise will be right. And eventually you'll just get it in the muscle memory, but that's the best way to see it because when you're doing double chucks, you have 4 different ways that you can spin them per se. And so you have to think of all of those 4 different ways. All right, Aikiflow, Russian films are good at throwing out the rule book. You know, I haven't really seen enough. Do you have any recommendations? Santiago, how long have you practicing with Nunchaku? You have the best techniques on YouTube. Thank you. I've been doing nunchucks I've been doing it like professionally as a performance art for about 13 years now. And then I did martial arts for 13 years prior, on and off with nunchucks. I definitely knew enough nunchucks to be like pretty good from a martial arts standpoint back in the day, but I didn't have any of the tricks until I was 43 now. Well, I'm about to be 43. So, but most of my teenage years, nunchucks was my chosen weapon, but I never tried to use it like for show. I always just did it because I enjoyed the sparring and I enjoyed like the workout it gave. But now I just do it for show for a couple reasons. One, I don't think I'm gonna get jumped when I have a pair of nunchucks around me. Two, getting older, I don't know. I appreciate the art of it more now. So I guess there's only two reasons. All right, y'all. That was great. Oh, and by the way, again, if you guys are enjoying this show, as always, this is how I make a living right now. So if you look below, there's a if you want to leave a tip, or if you want to leave a tip in my little tip jar for any helpful advice that you appreciated, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/flowtricks. And that, of course, I have over 100 exclusive videos just for Patreon right now. And then I also have a PayPal account, paypal.me/flowtricks. Please feel free to drop any donations. That's kind of how I've been trying to make a living, at least. I mean, COVID's pretty crazy right now, but this is, with my performances, most of my performances being grounded, I've really put a lot more focus onto the online teaching aspect. So if you do appreciate it, I would love to have just a few pennies thrown in there so I can get myself a sandwich. With that said, I think I'm gonna call it for this time. Hold on one second. I did get one good question. Have you seen the graphics of Xbox X and the PS5? I absolutely have. Gonna be honest though, like, I love the PS5 for their exclusives. Otherwise, I'm a PC dude. I think PCs are superior in terms of, well, not hacking, obviously. I hate playing online with computers because there's so many hackers. But so like when you want to play online, go with a console. But when we're talking about just like graphics and showcase, I generally think PCs do it better. There's just a lot of tweaks you can do, and let's not forget mods. Mods are huge. The ability for the community to contribute to a game and totally transform it is huge. So there's that. I think I'm very interested in the PS5. Not terribly interested in the Xbox. I think just having a good, powerful PC would be a better option in my opinion. But that's just me. To each his own. And House of Fools, I will check that out. Thank you, IKFlow. House of Fools. House of Fools. Perfect. All right, everyone. I think I'm going to take off for now. We're going to try for next Sunday at 5 p.m. CST, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks again for joining me. And if you have any questions at all, remember I am ken.flowtricks@gmail.com. Send me your questions, send me your videos, and we will review them on Sunday. Again, thanks again, everyone. Hope you all have a great week. Get your questions ready, and I'll talk to y'all soon. And my computer froze. So YouTube gets a little bit more of a show. I just turned off Facebook. Oh, here we go. All right, have a good night.